Back to the land of milk and honey. In the last video, we were talking about people staying down and just not wanting to succeed in life. There's some people that just make the choice. They're just like, well, I'm fine with where I'm at. I'm in my comfort zone. And as I've said before, if you want to succeed and move on and prestige through life, you got to get out of the comfort zone. Simple as that. And so I've always wondered why people do this. I don't know if I have the right idea, but I think I'm on the right path to thinking that it might be one of 4 reasons, and we went over those. Number 1 being the subconscious core belief that's holding us back. Number 2, depression. Number 3, as I went over before about how I feel about lack of motivation, this is what I call faded motivation. And that's the 3rd reason, and it's a stem off of depression. They go hand in hand. But sometimes you can have faded motivation without being depressed. But 99% of the time, if you're depressed, you have faded motivation. Motivated towards the wrong things. And the 4th one, that being conformity. And we haven't gone over this. But as I was finishing the last video, I asked, why don't people motivate themselves for growth or fulfillment? Why do some of us settle for the least amount of survival that we can get, just scraping by? And I think this is maybe one of the big reasons. It's either one of the big ones or one of the small ones. I don't think it's half and half. I think the half and half goes for not the lack of motivation, faded motivation. And so there's a list that I've come up with just side stems of why people stay down. That being, number 1, depression, fear of failure, low self-esteem, and low self-esteem is usually held in the subconscious. A lack of interest, you don't search out for inspiration or finding a purpose that suits you or anything like that. You just don't care. Another one being having the wrong focus or distractions, which they can go hand in hand. If you're distracted, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Distract. As I said before, some people can come into a lot of wealth and then lose it because they don't have the right mindset, or they get distracted. They come off the tracks. And whenever people lose $1 billion or they go up to $1 million, or all these celebrities that lose all their money within a year, it's because they went off track. And so this is why we need to study the fundamentals and have the mindset of the wealthy. And so let's get back to the list. The other one being a negative outlook on success. This comes with the mind of the poor. They look at wealthy people like, oh, they're snobs, they're assholes, which if you ever even meet anybody who is wealthy, they're very happy, very nice people. Poor people are usually angry around rich people, just like negative people do not like positive. If you're happy around a negative person, it will drive them insane. Oh yeah, we didn't do the intro. And we're back. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, the negative outlook on success. So the negative outlook on success is the poor man's mind. Looking at the rich man like, oh wow, he didn't even work for that. He didn't even do this. But he did work. He worked his mind out. See, a lot of people will wear themselves out physically, working 40, 50, 60. I knew a guy working 76 hours a week. He was a workaholic. He was the manager of an Arby's, and he loved working. He made a lot of money doing it. He made, I think, about it was either 78,000 or 87,000. I know it was 7.8 or 8.7. But he was making a lot of money. But he just loved being out of the house and working. And so if you have a negative outlook on success, if you look at money in a bad way, if money's not your friend, money's not going to come to you. Money must be your friend. You have to look at it as a good thing. Don't look at the wealthy the same way you have before. This is why I said read books. Read books written by the wealthy and by people who have succeeded and prestige through life, because you'll start adopting the mindset, understanding it, and then money is your friend. Money will start hanging out with you. Money will be knocking at the door, asking you what's up. And so all of these things play into the mindset. The negative outlook, the distractions and wrong focus, the lack of interest, the low self-esteem, the fear of failure, the depression, they all go into it. And this is why you must change your mindset to then in turn change the outcomes of your reality. Change the inside, the outside will change with it. This is why when you're depressed, it's a thing that's happening on the inside. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. There's many things that go on, and we're going to have a video just on depression one day. And your reality looks a lot duller. Everything's just gray. Everything's blue. Everything's down. Your reality has to do with what's inside. So to change the outcomes of your reality, change your mindset. And the outcomes of reality is really just, in my opinion, life. Life is just the different outcomes in a reality. Because if there's nothing going on in your life, you're just staring at a wall in your bedroom for 48 hours a day, and then you go and eat, you're not living. What outcome is there? You eat, you stare at the wall. There's nothing going on. And so people look at their life dependent on their outcomes. This is why I say that life is just the outcomes. This is how a reality looks. Because if you have really shitty outcomes, how's your life? Usually shitty. If you have great outcomes, you probably have a great life. And now everybody's going to have shitty outcomes in life. But remember, it's all the mindset and how you look at it. Take it as an opportunity to grow upon and learn the lesson. Don't fall off the bike and never get on. That's stupid. And so we're going to go over the last reason of the 4, and that is conformity, which also plays into a little bit into settling for less and settling for the least amount of survival, like I talked about at the end of the last video. But let's go over settling first. Settling is a very easy habit of the middle and lower class. That's why they stay in the middle or the lower, because they settle. You settle at the bottom. And so settling means to accept less than you feel that you actually deserve. Now, this doesn't play into, I'm trying to settle down and have a family. But when you settle for less, when you settle for, I could try, but, why try if there's the possibility of failing, In the movie Robots, there was that one guy that just always said, never try, never fail. But the main character, he kept going for it, and he ended up living his dream and went to Osball Ball or whatever. I haven't seen the movie in like 15, I don't know how many years. But settling less for what you deserve is all in the mind. Now, that isn't the dictionary definition, but it applies to the content in which we're speaking about right now. And some people just don't want to grow. They just don't want to change, as I've said. The uncertainty in whatever they think that they should do to succeed is too much. There's too much uncertainty, so they just stay put. And the 2 biggest contributors to settling for less are, like I said in the list at the beginning of this, low self-esteem, which will also play into a little bit of faded motivation. Because if you have low self-esteem, your motives are very different. You won't want to shoot higher because you're like, why? Why try? And the second contributor to settling for less is fear, especially the fear of change and the fear of uncertainty. And so when you have the fear to change, you're like, right here and right now isn't too bad. It's just comfortable enough that I can stay here, and then you conform. And then, there's also fear of others' opinions, what they have to say about you, and, the expectations. And as I said, parents are a big contributor to what's planted in the subconscious, and their expectations of your life is what you'll usually go out and do. And so if they're trying to put you through school and do all this, and it's not really what you want to do, and it doesn't match up with your subconscious, you fall through, and your life just goes to shit after that. It's not in harmony with each other. And so conformity happens in 2 ways, psychologically. There's normative social influence, where you don't agree with those around you, but you conform because they're all doing it. Kind of like a compliance type of thing. It's usually driven by the need to feel accepted by somebody. You don't agree with them, but you're going to go along with it because you want to be accepted. You want to look cool, or, birds of a feather flock together, you stay down with them. And then there's informational social influence. You conform because you believe it's correct. And whoever you are being influenced by looks like they know what they're talking about. And so you're like, I'll go with that. And this is a more correct type of influence. It's usually when their beliefs fit with yours, so they're right, or they're closer to right than somebody who you don't believe with. And so people will always listen to somebody who has the same beliefs as them, and that's great. But you should always try to flex your mind, flex your thinking, and flex your beliefs. Because how strong are they if you won't move out of the comfort zone of whatever you're learning? If you come across somebody you don't agree with, then you automatically usually shut off. It doesn't matter if they're true, if they're right, if everything they have to say is beautiful. You're going to shut them off because that's how human beings are designed. And so you really want to flex your mind, really. Don't be influenced because they believe. That's a great way to be influenced because, you're like, they think the same way I do. I'm going to go with it. So I'll listen to Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins because they all have like an idea that I have. And I have similar beliefs on some things. There's some things that I don't click with. Like a lot of people talk about a lack of motivation. I don't believe in a lack of motivation. You should take what other people are teaching you. Take what I'm teaching you, and if you don't agree with something, change it and figure out what works best. I don't want you to be schooled by me. I don't want you to be a follower of me. I want you to be a student. I want you to listen to what I say, listen to what someone else says. Take notes, and then come up with a decision. And so, how do people influence other people? This is the last part of conformity. This is like the other end. And it's called social impact theory. And with this, some conform and some don't. And it stems out into three different things. Number one has to do with number. A lot of people are running to the east, so I better run to the east. You walk outside into the streets of New York and you see a crowd of people running away from something. Your subconscious instinct is going to snap in and you're going to be influenced and, I better run. There's a number of people. There's something going on here. I better not go against the crowd. I might get screwed. But sometimes you follow the crowd and you get screwed anyways. It's a funny thing. And the second one being strength. So this guy has importance. He's famous. I'll do what he says. Kind of like a leader mentality, a follower mentality. Like I said, don't be a follower. Be a student. That's a quote from Jim Rohn, if you're curious. And then the third one being immediacy. And this is usually with influencing a group when you have no status. Let's say you walk into a new job. You're a manager, and you've got a staff, and you want to influence them. You might want to motivate them. And you have no status to them. Like I said in the first video, I said, the why watch this video, I said, I have no status to you. I have no importance to you. You have no clue who I am. You have no clue about anything. So why listen to me in the first place? And so when you want to influence a group while having no status, it's easier to leave 5 rather than 50. This is immediacy. And so this is how conformity works when you conform to that of the influence. And then these are the 3 things that usually influence people. Because if I influence a group of 50 people and half of them don't agree and half of them don't, there might be more stir-up than if there was 5 of them and then we all got to talking together and we all had to get the chance to say our opinions and speak what we had to talk about. And then everybody has an influence. And so I'm a little sideways with the 4th reason of why we don't want to do better, why we don't want to grow or succeed. And the 4th reason being conformity. I don't know too much about conformity, but I've noticed that some people who say they want to succeed will just hang around the same old people that keep them down. I know one guy that literally for fun, he had in the past just driven 8 hours a night for a week with his friends, partying up, but they didn't even go to any parties. They were just partying in their car, driving just from state to state to state with, I don't know where they got the money, but they wasted a lot of time. And he's like, well, I want to do better, but why are you spending 8 hours a night driving? And you're wasting the gas money. That gas money could be invested. You can take $2 and compound it and turn it into about $2.6 million. So if you're one of those people, you can't find the motivation, it's like, why care? I'd rather just show up to my job, clock in, clock out, do whatever. But if you succeeded a little more, you'd be able to do so many things that you don't even know that you would love to do, because you don't even have the chance. Your mind can't even think that far because the subconscious is holding you so far back. You don't even think about, would I like to ski this weekend? Would I like to go do this? It's like things that you'd never even think were possible. Things that you didn't even, skiing's very possible, but some people don't even think about it. But if you had won the lottery and you start thinking about everything you do, you'll notice that whenever you start thinking in the mentality of, oh, I just won the lottery, you're like, oh, I do this and this and this, and I never even realized I would want to do that. And it's not even immediate things. Like right now, you might really want to go to Taco Bell, or you might really want to go watch this movie in the theaters, because that's as far as your mind's thinking with the amount of money that you have and the amount of influence that you have. But if you had $1 million, let me tell you, there'd be so many other things that you'd want to do. So if you can't figure out what you want, number one, find your purpose. If you're doing your purpose, you're not working, and you'd make money on the side just doing it. And my biggest mission is being a light to the world. If you want to start learning your purpose, start being a light to others, and find out what you're good at. Find out what people come to you and say, you'd be good at this, you'd be good at that, yada yada. And so first, find your purpose. And if you can't find your purpose, well, we'll go over that too. But figure out what's keeping you back. Did your parents tell you you're never going to succeed after you didn't graduate high school? Are you depressed right now? Do you just not want to do anything? Are you motivated to go into work, clock in, and then run to the bar right afterwards and go home and sleep? Are you in a sense of faded motivation? Are you conforming to your friends? Or do you feel like you're the top of your friend list? Do you feel like you're the most successful? If you're at the top, it's time to go up and be the bottom of the group above you, and then move up in that one. So start to think about what's really holding you back, why you aren't moving ahead. Because you'd be able to do so many things that you don't realize that you would enjoy doing. You'd be able to impact so many people's lives through so many different things if you could rise above and just make your light brighter. And all it does is take thought. Everything begins in the mind, as I've said. Everything is thought. And the funny thing about a candle, I don't think I've ever said it before, is that, you've got the huge pillar candle. You've got like 99% of its wax, and you've got the wick coming up through the middle all the way. And it's just barely poking out at the top. And out of all the material in the candle, it's that wick, that little piece right at the top that just needs to be lit. And then it illuminates the room. And then you can take that candle, tip it over a little bit, and light another wick. And that wick will melt down the entire candle, all the wax and everything, just by the top of that wick. It just started at that little point. And so it all begins in the mind. Start thinking, start filtering out the thoughts. I feel repetitive now. So that's really it for now. This is my second video on faded motivation. I didn't really go over a little bit of faded motivation in this one as much as I did the last one, so I guess I'm just going to call this rock bottom. If you're in rock bottom, rewatch this video. Start thinking. Start waking up and thinking. I will for you all to prosper. And have a great day. I'll see you guys next time.